Hey, everyone. They're back home after a 5-game road trip, a successful one at that. The Stars are hosting the Montreal Canadiens. They haven't seen them for 2 games, but they are going to play them for the second and final time, and we're going to get to all of it. We've got Craig Ludwig, of course, our 2-time Stanley Cup winner. We've got Sam Nestler live at the AAC, and we have a bullpen call because no producer John tonight. That's right. The former ticket legend himself, TC Fleming, is producing tonight. So let's get started. Stars pregame show here on DLLS. It is Thursday. It is January 16th, and this is the DLLS Dallas Stars pregame show live tonight from the Lounge Studio. Alongside Craig Ludwig, I'm Owen Newkirk. Over at the American Airlines Center, it is our very own Sam Nestler on the scene. And in case you didn't catch in the intro, we do not have our producer, John Anderson, tonight, a.k.a. Producer John, which is a very clever nickname our diehards have given him. It's TC Fleming who is in charge of the show tonight. John is, as they say in hockey, an injured scratch. He has an illness. So hopefully, John, you get well soon. He's probably watching, isn't he?
Of course he is.
You think he is?
He's taking notes.
You're making sure that...
I can see him all wrapped up in a little whoopee, and he's probably got he's probably got some little slippers on, and he's sitting on his couch, and he's in the chat right now probably.
Is he sipping tea?
He's, he might not even be sick, honestly. It just might be one of those.
Just wanted a day away from us.
Health day.
Yeah. I could just see him being a little baby about being sick.
Okay.
I could just kind of.
Boy, you just want him to respond now.
He'll respond.
I think there's a good chance he's ignoring this entirely, and we'll watch it later. All right, we'll find out. Sam, let's get right to it. Stars and Montreal Canadiens tonight, and the big story of the day is, of course, involving Roope Hintz, who will not play because of an upper body injury. And look, it's an obvious statement, but it does leave a massive hole in their lineup.
It does, and it's not just his spot, right? The more concerning thing to me is they got to move someone into that spot, which is going to take away from what they've had success with. And we'll talk about the lines a little bit more, but I expect that to probably be Wyatt Johnston, which takes away from that Van Duchesne-Johnson line, which was finally getting going. You got the Stankoven and Bork connection kind of working. So it just throws another wrench into the things, right, as the Stars were kind of figuring things out offensively. But the good news is Pete did not rule him out for the weekend, just said he's day-to-day. So we just hope for the best here and hope that it's just a 1-game, max 2-game kind of thing.
And that was it for details. He didn't get into any more specifics other than upper body and day-to-day, did he?
No, and it was like we mentioned on the post-game show, we saw him take a pretty big hit and then have an awkward fall. The fact that it's upper body, you don't know when it happened, but it's a good thing probably that it's not lower body from what Luds and I were talking about. The way he kind of did a split over the blue line, looked like it could have been worse if it was something on the lower body. So it's a big hole that he leaves. He's hot. He's approaching 20 goals again, and we're going to see kind of how they fill in here. But what it does do is give a couple young guys another opportunity, right? We saw Blumel and Huru, and we've seen Ritzkovian right before that. Now we got the Blumel-Ritzkovian combination, which is coming in. And so you get a couple more young guys in this lineup. I think it's 5 rookies that'll play tonight and another 2 to 3 guys that were new from last year. So it's a pretty different looking lineup if you're looking at it right now.
Well, let's talk about that. And Sam, you mentioned the 2 young guys that were recalled. Matej Blumel back. He was, of course, in the last 2 games, but was sent down, you would assume, for cap considerations. But they also called up Justin Ritzkovian. It's not his first recall. He has played a couple of games, but he will come back, not R2 Huru. And if we would have TC, if you'd throw the Stars forward lines on, this is what Sam saw this morning. And Sam, it was interesting to me because a bunch of the other people and writers and other media members at Morning Skate today didn't catch on to this at the Morning Skate. And a lot of people thought they didn't even run lines. But you saw this, and you were the one that posted the stuff about where they were, what they were doing with Wyatt Johnston.
Yeah, I think the media in Dallas tends to talk a lot. So sometimes they're just yabbing and yabbing and yabbing, and nobody's paying attention. But they did it really quick. It wasn't a
Shots
full-on thing.
fired.
I think they did it one time through and then rotated in the Smith and the extra guys. But this is what I got from it. The big one I noticed was Wyatt Johnston in there in that Roope Hintz hole, which we weren't sure if that would have been a Sam Steele or if they wanted Duchesne up there. So it's just going to be interesting tonight to see, Blumel, if he is up on that third line, has a chance here. That's a line that's going to play a little bit more than the fourth line. The Steele Bork Stankoven line has looked good, so it'll give him an opportunity. And I talked to him a little bit this morning, and he talked about how he feels a lot better this time around, and specifically felt a lot better in the Toronto game than he did in that Ottawa game. Just said they were turning pucks over like crazy. It was his first game. It was a back-to-back, so it just felt like he was chasing the game nonstop. But now it feels like it's a chance for him to step in. And we had an interesting conversation with Pete about the young guys today, and talked about how it's good for some of these guys because it's not their first recall, right? It's for Blumel, it's his third or maybe fourth over the last 3 seasons. For Ritskovian, it's his second time up here. Huru was his first, so he gets sent down. And Pete talked about how that can eliminate some nerves and give you a chance to just kind of come up here and play your game and understand that you've been here before and you can play at this level. And one thing that I asked Pete was if that comes with some higher expectations, right? Does that give the young players the expectation of producing or, taking that next step at some point and not just being a guy that fills in and doesn't make mistakes? And Pete had an interesting answer. He said, it's not production that I'm looking at. It's really just make me trust you so I can play you 10, 12, 14 minutes a night and not have to do what he's done a lot lately, which is what he did with Blumel on Tuesday and didn't play the second half of the game. What he did with Huru and I think Ritskovian together in one of those games at home. And that's shortened his bench. And I think that Pete said no coach wants to shorten the bench. They want to roll 4 lines, especially this team. That's when they're at their best. And these guys now have a chance to take that next step, whether that's getting a little more solid on the defensive end, whether that's producing a point here or there on the offensive end. They have a chance here to solidify themselves instead of kind of being those fringe guys all the time.
I'm going to go back to that forward group in a minute with Luds because I want to pick his brain. But, Sam, Jake Oettinger caused a small bit of news this morning just because he didn't participate in the morning skate, which wasn't optional. Now, Jake has made it very clear, just like his mentor, Ben Bishop, he's happy to take an optional and not skate in the morning. Ben Bishop will absolutely love not skating if they didn't have to on game day. But he will play tonight. Was there any concerns in your mind?
Not really. I didn't think there was anything outside of him taking an optional. I honestly thought DeSmith might start, though. I did think that. I think it's happened one other time that Jake has not skated and he's been the starter this whole season. So it's a little bit odd. We had an e-bug here this morning, so you don't really know what to expect. It was an e-bug. I confirmed it was not Jake Oettinger. I checked 4 or 5 times.
You mean it wasn't Casey
sure.
DeSmith twice?
Yeah, it wasn't a hidden Casey DeSmith, but. Yeah, for Jake, I think this is the start that for him we kind of expect now he's going to get the 2 games in 1.5 days. I fully expect him to go against Colorado and then Casey come in on Sunday against Detroit. So we'll see from Jake tonight, but he's been great. We talked about him. Most of us picked him as our MVP the first half of the season. Good chance to come home tonight and make sure if the Stars do start slow in the classic trap game that Luds loves so much. Don't worry, it was asked this morning by somebody. Make sure that Jake Oettinger is ready to help them in case they are starting a little slow.
I think Heike was the one that mentioned trap.
He says it all the time.
Yeah.
That's his go-to. As soon as they go on a 2-day trip and he come back and it's a trap. Is this a trap game? He's got that stupid giggle and he cackles and kind of like Sam.
Kind of like Sam.
There.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. I was trying to be on your guys' team for once.
You were close.
Yeah.
Well, Sam, we appreciate you reporting in. I'll get you ready for the warm-up here. We'll keep an eye on that. Don't think we're going to see a different group, but that's probably what we're going to see. So thanks very much, and we'll talk to you afterwards.
All right, boys. Enjoy the game.
All right, that's Sam Nestler over at American Airlines Center. All right, let's go back to that real quick, and then we'll get into some of the other storylines. So, TC, if you would throw up that forward group for the Stars again, please. This is interesting. I understand where the coaching staff is coming from. Wyatt Johnston is a top 6 center. He's capable of that. So that makes sense. However, by doing this and moving this around and moving Stankoven up, you're affecting all 4 lines. Not one line is intact from their win over Toronto on Tuesday night. Is that a concern for you, or do you like the way that the coaching staff decided to line this up?
It's not a concern for me because Pete DeBoer knows his players better than us two sitting up here. This morning, I had a total different lineup.
I did too.
Would
you, if I said to you, hey, Roope's not going to play, Blumel and Ritskovian are in, what was your thought?
Well, the one that would surprise you is I didn't have Dadonov up there.
Really?
So, no, I did not.
See, I thought you'd just move Sam Steele up or maybe Maverick Bourque and keep the wings together.
What I did, and I wrote it down, and I have Bourque and Stankoven playing with Robo. Stankoven, when he played with Duchesne, there wasn't a lot of chemistry, I thought. And then but what I did is because Bourque and Stankoven have been playing together. They're getting to know each other. Robo comes in late all the time, and you just got to find him, and he shoots the puck. So it's pretty simple with Robo. And then what I did, I kept the Duchesne line together because they have now become the Marchment, Duchesne, Sagan group.
Yep.
They've been the best, most consistent line. And then what I had is I had Beck with Steele and Blackwell. And then the others.
So then you have Ritskovian, Dadonov, and Blumel.
Yep.
The only problem with that is I'm not
There's
sure.
not a center.
Yeah.
Oh, I knew that right away. But I did. But the thing is you can start throwing Dadonov in anywhere.
What if you went Steele, Dadonov, Blumel is your third line? If you wanted to go with that top 6 that you came up with, would you like that? And that would then keep your fourth line what it is tonight.
I look at Steele and Blackwell as guys that go together. I do things in pairs, and so I have Steele and Blackwell together. I have Jamie and Duchesne together. And I have Bourque and Stank together. So, and then because I think that those guys can play, Robo can play with, right now the way Robo's playing, it's like get me the puck. And he's finding holes. And I think that those two guys can find him. I think Bourque deserves to play with someone like Robo right now.
It would be interesting to go Robertson, Bourque, and Dadonov, and then just slide Steele over and have him in the middle with Stankoven and Blumel, because Blumel is a left shot, even though he can play both wings.
But see,
then you keep Johnston with
you
Duchesne
don't have
and
the
Ben.
familiarity of those two guys together.
I know. That's part of it. But it would be interesting to see.
The minutes that Blumel has gotten, it doesn't like he's going to be a top 3 guy in Pete's or the coach's mind right now. And so what I'm thinking is you've got, 3-4 guys here that, in and out and get little spots here and there, but you can roll a little bit more with 3 lines with consistency. And Dadonov can go in anywhere. Well, Dadonov, you can put him in anywhere you want him to go.
Here's the other thing. Blumel's going to get a chance here tonight to play on a line that's not the 4th line. No. He might get some regular minutes. And I'm not trying to sound negative here, if Pete doesn't like what he sees, he could easily slide Colin Blackwell up with Steele and Bourque, and that would work too.
Yeah. I don't, be honest with you, I don't know if they know. Who's gonna
probably
once you get past your top 6 guys, I just think Bourque and Stankoven, we've been waiting a long time for Bourque to get up and running, and I think he's running. I think you want to give him running, and I think he deserves to get a few more minutes. Let's go with a good player.
Let's go to the D and goalie pairings real quick, if you would, TC. The no changes for the top 6. Oettinger obviously back in goal. So there's no surprises there. The thing that I wanted to bring up, Luds, was I talked to Matt Dumba today, and he was one of the guys I went over and chatted with at the morning skate, and he said I asked him about playing with the full shield, and he said that because he has that on, he will not fight. He said that's sort of a thing. You don't do that when you have that full bubble on. He did say that otherwise it's not affecting his game at all as far as physicality, as you saw that big hit he laid the other night on Domi. And he kind of smiled when I asked him about that. And he said he feels like the one thing about wearing the bubble, the full shield, is it's a bit of a target. Because I told him I've seen a couple guys kind of get him up high either with the hands or sticks. And he thinks that because he has that guys have felt they could take a few liberties with that when he's wearing it. And then I asked, is it hard to breathe or is it too hot for him? And he said, no, because he doesn't have the chin pad piece on it.
You can see he's got the vents there.
Right, and he says it's screwed directly into the helmet, so it doesn't hinge or go up at all. It makes it a little harder to get it on and off.
So you should say it's screwed directly into his head.
Well, there's that too. But he said that because of that, it's not very foggy and not too hot.
Yeah, and I think you can be a little more reckless with it. I really do. I think you can go diving into piles, you can go into corners, and you don't have to worry about a stick coming up and catching the eye or somebody with an elbow. So He, I think he's right on with all the stuff. And the other thing is that it's tough to really run around and hit when you've got that on, because you're not going to fight. And you know what I mean?
And that's what was my whole point of asking him that, because I just wonder if, because even the threat of doing it, like, he's not going to fight every night. He's not going to fight every 5 games.
It's just from the other side as an opponent.
They know.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Know.
And I think that affects his game a little bit.
Oh, I don't know. Dumba's game? Why?
Yeah,
because he doesn't hit? He hits.
No, I think he hits. But I just think that it takes an element of the opponent knows, well, he's got that on, he's not going to throw. So I'm curious if that changes anything at all.
I don't think it changes.
He insisted that it didn't.
No, I just think that, the other guy, the guys that he's hitting, I think it's, I don't know. I've never played with one, so I don't know. We'd get laughed out if we did play with one, I guess. But that, again, different.
Well,
times.
According to one of your longtime teammates, you barely wore any padding except for your shin pads.
One of my longtime teammates?
Yeah, I'll tell you more about that on another show. I'm going to save that because I heard a nugget this week from one of your longtime Dallas Stars teammates who said that your shoulder pads were minuscule and that your pants were extremely thin, and couldn't believe you would block shots with wearing nothing except for the big shin pads. So
yeah, well, we cut everything out of them. We cut all the padding out of the pads.
Was that just for movement?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I didn't want to overheat,
Yeah.
The shoulder pads, and most of all, you cut the caps off and you put Velcro on the caps and put them to your T-shirt and things like that. So yeah, it was just different, and we didn't care as much, but that's probably why we mumble around and bumble around the way we do now.
The other big storyline from the game against there's a couple. One, they first win over Toronto in 7. They had lost 7 straight, and they're back to winning ways after just 1 loss. So now they are 9-1-1 in their last 11, 4-1 on the road trip. But it's Logan Stankoven. 25-game goal drought snapped. He had a 3-point game. And so I had to ask him, because you picked it out first. I give you credit for this. I said to him on the Bork goal where Stankoven tipped it and went off Bork and went in.
He thought he got
and I said, Logan, did you think that was your goal for a second? And he smiled. He goes, yes. For just a split second, I thought it was mine.
He covered it up so well, though, because he actually – who shot the puck from the point?
Was it Lundqvist?
I don't know.
I think it was Lundqvist.
Whoever it was that shot the puck from the point, he immediately raised his hand and he looked to the point, like, hey, great shot. And then he kind of went, oh, because I think he heard Bork yell out of his right ear. He heard him yell, and he covered it up so well. It was like he was so happy for Bork getting the goal. But I guarantee he was going, oh man, it's been so long.
At least he had gotten the first one before that. If that had been the one where he thought he finally got a goal.
I mean, he got a hat trick that night.
Right, but think about it. If it wasn't for the second goal.
Oh, and if it didn't happen?
Let's just say that was, let's say he hadn't scored already in the game, and he tips it and thinks he's broken a 25, because he was jubilant when he got the first goal, as you should be, right?
Oh, and so were the other 4 guys on the ice.
And that it was amazing that his team was almost as happy as he was.
Are you sure it's amazing?
No,
they loved this guy.
No, it was, when I say amazing, not surprising, it was just wonderful to see that reaction.
Yeah, because that's how they feel about Logan. I just truly believe that.
I don't mean it was
and
a
the
surprise.
reason they feel that way is because of the way that he plays and what he brings every night. And you've heard the head coach say it every time somebody brings it up. I'm not worried about him. We know what we get with him, and he's not going to cheat the game. He's not going to cheat a shift.
And on that, because we said he plays the same way all the time. And I told him, you said that. I said today, and he goes, at the end of our conversation, he said, well, that was very nice. Thanks for those kind words. Because I said, you keep saying on the show that he does the exact same things. The one thing he did say, though, was, I said, you do the same thing you're still doing. It just hasn't gone in for you. He goes, I just wonder, he said, the coaches did kind of reaffirm me to go to the net. And he goes, I feel like I got a little closer to the net on the, against Toronto. I don't think so. I think he's doing the same things, but when something finally breaks, right?
No, that they're right, because you can see that there was Logan in the beginning when he scores his goals. He's literally nose to nose with the goaltender.
Yeah,
I mean, he's there. There were other times where as he was going through this, and I think it was more in disbelief that it didn't go in. That when he had disbelief in his head, his feet stopped moving, and so he would stay 4 or 5 feet after he shot the puck. where he would typically gravitate all the way to the front of the net. He'd always be on top of the blue paint or touching a post or something like that. And I think that's what, for the one that he did score, he was standing on the blue paint. And if he wouldn't have been there, he wouldn't have been able to peek around behind and see that the puck was laying there behind the goaltender.
Yep. Do you think this is going to be a breakout for him? Because he hasn't changed his style of play at all, but now he's playing without the pressure and the weight of a long goal drought.
Another reason I would have liked him to stay with Bork.
Yeah.
They just feel that they're on the same page, those two, and hopefully they're going to get their lines back. That Roope is not going to be out long, and then we'll probably switch back there, and then Marchman's going
to get healthy, and they'll shake it all up again.
I think I don't think this is going to kind of throw a wrench into anything for him. He's going to continue to go the way he goes, and he's not a guy that goes to certain areas and that people have to find him. They know where he's going to be. That he's going to be within a couple of feet of the net. Are
you ready to talk about the Canadiens for a minute?
Sure. Do we have anything new from a week ago?
We do.
What do we got?
Well, TC, throw up the defense and goalies. I threw a curveball. I told you I wasn't going to. Because Jakob Dobes is a 23-year-old from Czechia, is going to get the start tonight. It's not going to be Sam Montembeault, who's always played well against the Stars. Dobes has been an incredible revelation. Small sample size, but he is 3-0 in his NHL career. He debuted at the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers and shut them out. Then he went to Colorado in his next appearance, and he beat them. And then they went to Washington, D.C. the night before the Stars played him last Friday, and he beat the Caps. He's 3-0, 9.59 goals against or save percentage. His goals against average is under 1. He's 6'4", 215, so he's a big kid.
Yep.
It's not a long sample size, but clearly he's started as just about as well as you can an NHL career in goal.
Kind of reminds me of another guy that came into Montreal and started that same way, and his name was Patrick Waugh. We're like, who the hell is this kid? And I mean, it's very similar. And the only reason I knew that he was starting, I was listening to TSN out of Montreal on the drive down here today, and Mark Denny was on, and he was
former goalie, yep.
Yeah. And so he does.
He was a longtime Blue Jacket, wasn't he?
He broadcasts, with Montreal.
But he was wasn't he Columbus for a long time?
I don't know.
He played for the Blue Jackets.
But he was talking about both of them. He honestly didn't know either, and he said, but my guess would be that he would start tonight. Just because the best news is for Montreal, they're kind of back in the day when we were. I mean, their last 10 games, their goals against average is 2.5. So that it's kind of old school. And the other thing that they do, they're suppressing a lot of shots. I mean, they're giving up between 20, 25, 27 shots. So for Montreal, this will probably be a good test. The last time they played Dallas ended up getting 30-plus shots. So that was one out of the norm. But the reason that they're on that bubble of a playoff spot is because they've tightened things up. The Hudson kid, a lot of talk about.
My next part to ask you about.
A lot of talk about him and what he's been doing. And there was some guy that wrote an article that didn't think he was as good as he is, and which always happens in Montreal because that's how you get your name brought up.
But isn't that how to get attention in the media?
That's what they do. They just want people to start mentioning your names. That's why I won't mention the guy's name.
Lanehutson is on a 5-game point streak. You can see on the screen he's the top pairing defenseman along with Mike Matheson. He has 9 points, a goal, and 8 assists. He's mostly an assist guy, not a big goal scorer, but that's okay.
Not a big guy.
He's not a big guy, but he's on a 5-game point streak, and he leads all NHL rookies in scoring. He actually leads Montreal in assists over Nick Suzuki, who's their point leader. And my question to you, Luds, is we've seen him play the Stars now once. This will be the second time. A lot of people have been saying he's one-dimensional, that he's just an offensive skill guy, which is, look, there are other defensemen in the league that are extremely one-dimensional. He is really dynamic. He's not big, but do you think it's fair that they're saying he's not that much of a defensive player?
Well, let's talk about Quinn Hughes, who plays in Vancouver. He's not much of a defensive player because he's got the puck all the time. That's what this
sounds like. Makar.
Exactly. He has the puck all the time. So he defends 100 feet away from his own net because he lugs it up the ice and he dangles and he's up there and he hasn't made many mistakes because what the big talk was, and again, I can only talk about this because I've been listening to talk, is how was he defensively? Well, nobody can answer the question because he doesn't play in his own zone because he's always on the hunt with it. And he's had a couple 2-on-1s. He's had a couple outnumbered rushes they talk about, and he's played them totally fine. And so when you've got two goaltenders like they have, you play, like I talk all the time, once you get below the tops of the circles, you have to start taking the pass away because your goaltenders want to come out and challenge, and they have to be comfortable knowing that you're going to play the 2-on-1 the right way so it doesn't go across what they call the Royal Road. And what I hear is that's how he plays. He takes those little areas away. The other thing is he's got the quickness because he's so small. You can probably pick a few more pucks off, and you could probably go a little more aggressively at certain forwards. There were times in the career, as defensemen, you kind of know everybody you play against. And there's guys that you want, if it's a 2-on-1 and you have a certain player coming down with the puck, you want him to keep the puck. And if it's, let's just say it's Brett Hull coming down and me. No, let's just say you and your Penguins, your Pigeons,
my
whatever
Pigeons, absolutely. So I'm glad you remembered.
If it's you and Hully coming down on a 2-on-1,
you
and
want
Hully's got
me
the
to
puck,
have the puck.
I'm immediately going to Hully.
Because you don't want him shooting.
Yeah, because I want it to go to you, and that's no disrespect to you, but I know what Brett Hull does.
You should compared to Brett Hull.
You know what I'm talking about that.
He has, 700-something more goals in his NHL career than I do? So
yeah, whatever that number would be.
Whatever it is, it's 0 versus that. Let's look at the forwards real quick for the Canadiens, because they had a big win in Utah to get back to winning ways. Now they're on a bit of a point streak as they've points in 5 straight games. Their only blemish was the shootout loss to Dallas last Saturday. And Patrick Laine, Kirby Dach scored 2 goals. That's big for him. He has 3 goals, I think, in his last 4 or 5 games now. But Laine scored an even strength goal.
That's rare.
It's his first this year. He has 10 goals, 9 power play. This was his first 5-on-5. But it was interesting because it was from the same left wing circle. But the difference is he actually started the rush by causing a turnover in the defensive zone. And, for a big guy, he can get going. Yeah. And he moved up the ice, hit a drop pass. It went around, and then he went to his office, got a pass back, and he scored from the left circle.
It's funny. I was looking, and for a guy, he's played 495 games. He's got 400 points. Yeah. Right? He's got 280-some goals.
He is an offensive machine.
But 30% of his goals, 37% of his goals are power play goals. I don't know. Is that a high number? Is that number for?
I'd have to do some research on that, but I would think so.
Seems like that's a high number for me. And 33% of all of his points come on power play.
I'd be curious where Ovechkin's numbers are because he feasted on power play as well. That way.
But it's going to come down a little bit because he's got 800 and some goals.
That's fair.
He doesn't have 281 or whatever.
No, he's got a lot, but not maybe that much. No,
he's got 281 goals or somewhere in that neighborhood, and he's got like 73 power play goals. So, but yeah, I mean, he feasts on that spot, and and again, he's a big, tall, lanky, and when you watch his stick, it's like he's got a 70, you know what I mean, 77 or something like that, and he's got the big whip on it. And once you see a couple still shots of that, it's amazing how a stick stays in one piece the way he shoots the puck. But anyway, yeah, I mean, and he's a revelation for Montreal. I mean, he's becoming a big. And it was you that sent that this morning. Are we going to pull that picture up, by the way?
I don't know if we. Oh no, I don't think we put that.
We're not going to bring something up about how he dresses. Then I went, oh yeah, you already sent me.
I sent it to you as a laugh. I didn't think to send it to TC so that we could have it. It's just Laine is a big fashion forward kind of guy, and
I don't call that.
Roope Hintz, they like to go a little bit more aggressive in their fashion than say the traditional black suit and tie.
No, for Roope, it's black and white, isn't it? Half and half.
I mean,
Didn't he have that at his wedding or something like that in the summer? Yeah, he had a black and half.
It wasn't his wedding, I don't think.
No, but there was something going on.
Oh, yeah.
Half and half.
He literally had the two-face.
Yeah, it was like the it was kind of the penguin, but backwards.
Speaking of Laine and the power play, the Stars penalty kill has been so good this year, and we talk about this all the time. They are 35 for 38. That's 92% over the last 17 games. One of the few power play goals they gave up was against Laine and Montreal.
That one didn't that go off the skate? Did that go off Lyubushkin?
Yeah. That was the 5-on-3.
Yeah. So
5-on-4, they look like they handled him. 5-on-3, they should probably try to avoid that tonight.
Yeah, well, I think anytime you can get away from anybody that's getting on a 5-on-3, and again, it happens in most of the ones that cause you to go down, with the 5-on-3, usually are to me they're very, very touchy sometimes. I just think half the times it has to do with what the score of the game is, where the games are being played, and everything else.
2 things to add from the chat. One, and I don't know, TC, if you can grab the one that says the Ludwigs, but Bo says, "Hi, Grandpa." That's in the chat. Thought you'd appreciate that. And then the one right below that, TC, is from Matt DeSmith. I'm guessing he might be related to Casey.
Maybe?
He said, I attended the game in Montreal, and every time Hutson got the puck, the crowd roared with excitement. Casey played with him at the Worlds a couple years ago and was truly impressed with his skating.
There you go. I mean, it's today's game, not just today. I mean, going back how many years now? 10 years at least?
At least.
I mean, the game has changed so much, and everybody can skate. That's the problem. And we see the same thing all the time. Everybody can skate. It's from the neck up is where things got to get adjusted, and so it's a process with these guys. But he's obviously come in and he's made a big splash there, and so it'll be interesting to see how he plays tonight, especially against a team that now has seen him once, and they'll see if they play him a little bit differently, meaning the Dallas team.
Last little note, because we're kind of out of time here. Stars power play 6 for 16 in their last 7 games, 37.5%. What's different?
Let's not talk about it. Just let it keep on going.
Rolling
like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Well, on the other sideline, just so you know, Montreal has given up a power play goal against in 5 of their last 6. I believe the only one they didn't was against Dallas. So forget that. We'll just let it move on.
Let it go.
Okay.
No.
There you go. Grandpa got a shout out. See
you, Bo.
A DeSmith relative got in the chat, which we appreciate. Thank you, Matt. And we have gotten you ready for Stars against Montreal. Big thank you to our producer, TC Fleming, Sam Nestler over at the AAC. For Craig Ludwig, I'm Owen Newkirk. Enjoy the game if you're not there in person watching on Victory Plus. We'll be back right after the game for the full post-game show, so find us right here on DLLS. Thanks, guys.
We all silly like the mayor.